I see him every week, without fail. Rain or shine, cold or blazing hot, he's there. An old man, stooped and quiet, sitting by the same grave. Always the same spot, always the same time. I've watched him from a distance for months now, maybe even years. There's something about him that pulls at me, a kind of sadness I can't explain. I never asked who he was or whose grave he visited. It felt too personal, like a secret he didn't want to share. So I kept my distance, letting my curiosity simmer quietly inside me. Every week he brings fresh flowers, simple ones, nothing fancy. He speaks softly to the stone, his voice trembling with memories I can only imagine. Sometimes he closes his eyes, sometimes he just sits, lost in thought. Watching him, I can feel the weight of a story I don't know but want desperately to understand. I thought about approaching him, breaking the silence with a gentle question. But I never did. What if his pain was too deep? What if some stories are meant to stay buried, just like the person beneath that stone? Then one day, something changed. The old man wasn't there. The grave was silent, untouched, and when I went closer, I found something I never expected. A note, folded carefully beneath the flowers. That moment, that simple piece of paper, nothing could have prepared me for what I found that day. I come to this cemetery often. It's where my sister rests now. She passed away a few years ago, suddenly and without warning. I still visit her grave every week, just like the old man visits his. This place is strange, quiet and peaceful but heavy with sorrow all at once. The air feels thick sometimes, like it's holding on to every memory and every goodbye that's ever happened here. But it's also a place where I find some kind of calm. Maybe it's the stillness. Or maybe it's knowing I'm not alone in my grief. When I first noticed the old man, I was drawn to him without even realizing it. He seemed so alone yet so connected to the woman beneath that stone. He's not just there to say hello or drop off flowers. No, he talks to her, like she's right there, listening to every word he says. I started paying attention to his routine. Every visit he brings fresh flowers. Always something simple, maybe daisies or wildflowers. Nothing flashy, just quiet reminders that he remembers. He kneels down carefully, arranges the flowers just so, then reaches out to gently touch the stone. Sometimes I catch him whispering things I can't hear. Maybe it's "I love you," or maybe it's stories from their past. Whatever it is, his voice breaks in the most tender way. He isn't just visiting a grave, he's holding onto a connection that won't fade. Over time, seeing him became almost comforting to me. His devotion reminded me of the love I still carry for my sister. In a place full of endings, there was a kind of quiet hope in his weekly visits. I began to look forward to seeing him, like we were two strangers linked by the same kind of pain. But I never thought the story behind that grief would change my life. One week, the old man didn't come. At first I thought maybe he was running late or had something important to do. But as the day went on, and then the week passed, I realized he hadn't been there at all. That absence felt strange, like a silence louder than anything I'd heard before. The place where he always sat seemed empty, cold, missing something essential. I felt a sudden urge to go closer to the grave, to see if maybe there was a clue, something he'd left behind. When I reached the spot, my eyes caught something unusual. Nestled under the fresh flowers he always brought, there was a small folded piece of paper. It looked out of place, carefully tucked like a secret waiting to be discovered. My heart beat faster. I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I should pick it up, but curiosity got the better of me. I unfolded the note slowly, feeling like I was about to step inside someone else's private world. The handwriting was shaky but clear, the words written with a kind of urgency that made me hold my breath. "Forgive me, I don't know if I'll be back next week. I found something I thought I lost forever." I read the note again and again, trying to understand what it meant. What could he have found? What was it that he thought was lost, and why did it change everything? Questions flooded my mind. Was he planning to leave? Had something happened to his wife's memory, or to him? The note was a mystery wrapped in pain, and it pulled me deeper into a story I didn't expect to be part of. I looked around, hoping maybe he'd left more clues. But there was nothing else, only the quiet hum of the cemetery and the weight of the old man's words. That note changed everything. It made me realize there was so much more beneath those weekly visits than I had ever imagined. And I knew, somehow I had to find out what had happened to him. Because sometimes a simple message can open the door to a whole new world. And I was ready to step through it. After finding that note, I couldn't stop thinking about the old man. The mystery consumed me. Who was he really? What was the story behind his weekly visits? And most of all, what had he found that changed everything? I started asking around. At first I didn't know where to begin. But then I found the groundskeeper, a quiet man who had worked at the cemetery for decades. He knew everyone buried here and everyone who visited. When I mentioned the old man, the groundskeeper nodded slowly. "That's Mr. Harris," he said, "retired soldier. Served in the war a long time ago. His wife passed away 10 years ago. He told me they'd been married for 50 years. A lifetime spent together. Mr. Harris never missed a single week visiting her grave, not even once. You don't forget a love like that," the groundskeeper said. "Not in this life." I pictured the old man in my mind, young and strong, standing next to the woman he loved. 50 years of marriage, 50 years of memories, laughter and sorrow. And now all he had left was that grave, and the notes he whispered to it. The note I found haunted me. I found something I thought I lost forever. What could it mean? Was it something physical like an old keepsake? Or was it something deeper, a memory, a secret, maybe even forgiveness? I imagined the old man holding on to hope, even after all these years. Holding on to the idea that maybe, just maybe there was more left to discover. The more I learned, the more I felt connected to him, to his pain and to his love. It wasn't just a story about loss, it was about a bond that even death couldn't break. I needed to know what he had found. I needed to understand why that note was his last message before disappearing. And so my search began. Because sometimes the answers we seek are hidden in the stories of others waiting for us to listen. I couldn't let the story end with just that note. Something inside me pushed me to find Mr. Harris, to uncover the truth behind his words. So I started looking. I went to nearby veteran centers, hoping someone might know where he was. I asked nurses, volunteers, anyone who might have seen him, but most people shook their heads. He was a quiet man, kept to himself. Still, one name kept coming up: the apartment complex near the edge of town. That's where he had lived before disappearing. I found the building, a simple worn-down place with faded paint and creaky stairs. I knocked on the landlord's door and waited. When he opened, I explained who I was and why I was asking. He sighed deeply. "Mr. Harris?" "Yeah, he left. Just like that. No warning, no note, no explanation." I felt a chill. The man I'd watched for so long was gone, vanished without a trace. "Did he leave anything behind?" I asked. The landlord hesitated, then nodded. "There was one thing. A box. Old letters mostly." He led me inside the apartment, now mostly empty. The air smelled like memories and loneliness. The box sat on the dusty floor. It was small, worn at the edges, tied with a faded ribbon. I opened it slowly. Inside were dozens of letters, yellowed with age, some brittle, others carefully preserved. I picked one up and read the faded ink. They were letters from a woman, written with love and longing, but something about them felt different, like they held a secret waiting to be revealed. I wondered who the woman was. Was she the old man's wife? Or someone else? The weight of the letters settled over me. They were a key to the mystery, pieces of a puzzle that might finally explain what Mr. Harris had found. I felt a mix of hope and fear. What if the truth was more complicated than I imagined? What if some secrets were better left buried? But I couldn't turn back now. I had come too far. With the letters in hand, I knew I was about to uncover something powerful, something that would change everything I thought I knew about love, loss, and the past. And I was ready to follow wherever this story led. I sat down carefully with the box of letters in my lap, my hands trembling a little as I opened the lid. The air around me felt thick with stories waiting to be told, stories that belonged to a man I barely knew, but now felt deeply connected to. The letters were from a woman's hand, delicate and sure, filled with love and longing. I began to read them, expecting memories from a devoted wife, a woman writing to the husband she loved so deeply. But something didn't add up. The dates on the letters were strange. Some were written long after the woman's death. That couldn't be right. How could letters come from a wife who had passed away 10 years ago? Confused, I kept reading. Then I found one letter that made everything clear. It was a confession, written in careful, sad handwriting. The wife, Margaret, had a twin sister, Eliza, who had been estranged from the family for decades. No one in the town knew about her. When Margaret fell ill and then passed away, Eliza began writing the letters, pretending to be her sister. At first, it was a way for Eliza to heal, to hold on to the love her sister left behind. She wanted to comfort Mr. Harris, to fill the empty space with words that sounded like Margaret's voice. But over time, Eliza's letters became more than just words. They became a bridge, a chance for the old man to find peace he thought was lost forever. When Mr. Harris discovered the truth, that the letters were not from his late wife, but from her twin sister, he didn't turn away. Instead, he left the apartment, the cemetery, everything he knew to find Eliza. He needed to see her, to face the truth, to understand what it meant to love someone who was both new and familiar. That was why he never came back to the grave. After that note, he had found something he thought was lost. A part of his wife's family, and maybe even a new chance to heal. The story hit me harder than I expected. The pain of losing a loved one is deep, but the courage to face unexpected truths, that is something else entirely. Eliza's letters, written with love and honesty, had opened a door to forgiveness and understanding. I felt a strange comfort, knowing that Mr. Harris was not lost in grief anymore. He was on a path to something different, something that might bring him peace. This was not just a story about loss. It was about how love can take many forms, even when life changes the rules. And it made me wonder, what would I do if I found a secret like this? Could I face it? Could I forgive? The letters told me that sometimes, the answers we need come from places we least expect. And sometimes the past holds keys to healing the future. After weeks of searching, I finally found him. He was living in a small nursing home by the sea, a quiet place where the waves whispered stories of time and healing. When I walked into his room, he looked up slowly, surprise flickering in his tired eyes. "Mr. Harris," I said softly. He nodded. "Yes, I'm him." I told him about the letters, about what I had discovered. For a moment he said nothing, just stared out the window, as if the sea was washing away years of sorrow. Then he spoke. "At first, when I found out about Eliza, I was angry, betrayed. How could my wife keep such a secret? How could her sister write to me after she was gone, pretending to be Margaret?" He paused, his hands trembling as they rested on the blanket. "But then when I met her, I saw my wife in her, not just because they looked alike, but because Eliza carried the same spirit, the same kindness, the same love." He told me they talked for hours. About the past, the memories they shared, and the pain they both carried. "It was hard," he said, "to face the truth, to see the difference between what was lost and what remained. But through those conversations, something inside him shifted. For the first time in years, I felt peace. Not because I forgot Margaret, but because I learned to let go." He looked at me then, eyes clear and steady. "It's not about moving on," he said softly. "It's about letting go. Letting go of the pain, the regret, the loneliness. That's where healing begins." I felt tears well up, not just for him, but for all of us who carry invisible wounds. He smiled faintly. "Eliza helped me find that. She gave me a chance to love again, not in the way I thought, but in a way that made sense." That moment stayed with me longer than I expected. Sitting there, listening to Mr. Harris speak softly about his journey, I finally understood something deep and true. Love isn't always about holding on tight, gripping so hard you're afraid to let go. Sometimes love means opening your hands, trusting that whatever matters most, whether it's a person, a memory, or a feeling, will find its way back to you, or maybe lead you somewhere new altogether. It's a lesson that feels simple, but carries so much weight. As I left the nursing home, the air seemed lighter, and so did my heart. The story that had started with so much grief, so much pain and unanswered questions, had shifted. It was no longer just about loss. It had become a story about hope, about healing, about finding peace even when you think it's impossible. I realized something else too, that sometimes the most unexpected connections, the ones that sneak up on us when we least expect, are the ones that save us. Mr. Harris's story, his grief, his healing, it wasn't just his anymore. It was ours, all of us who carry our own stories of love and loss. After everything I had learned, I found myself thinking about love in a way I never had before. How it stretches beyond the limits we set for it. How it reaches beyond death, beyond time, and beyond all the things we think we know. Love is bigger than any one moment, any one person, any one lifetime. And grief isn't something you simply get over. It's not like a cold you catch, and then recover from. No, grief is something you carry with you. It shapes you, changes you, sometimes in ways you don't expect, and sometimes, if you're lucky, grief transforms you. It softens you, it teaches you how to heal, even if that healing doesn't come all at once, or look the way you thought it would. Healing is messy, it's slow, it's full of surprises. One quiet afternoon, I went back to the cemetery to visit my sister's grave. The sky was calm, the kind of peaceful stillness that makes you almost hold your breath. And there, tucked beneath the fresh flowers I had brought, was something I hadn't expected. A small note, folded carefully like a secret, waiting to be found. My hands trembled as I picked it up, the weight of everything I had learned pressing down on me. I unfolded the paper slowly, my eyes scanning the simple words written there. "Thank you for helping me find the last piece of her." The note was from Mr. Harris. In that moment, I felt the threads of our stories pull tight. The old man's story, my story, and my sister's story, all connected by love, loss, and the quiet courage it takes to keep moving forward. It made me realize that sometimes, even people we've never met touch our lives in ways we never imagined. Sometimes it's a stranger's pain that helps us understand our own, and sometimes all it takes is one note, one simple heartfelt message, to change everything. That note wasn't just words on paper. It was a bridge between hearts, between past and present, between sorrow and hope. And it reminded me that healing is possible, even when it feels impossible. If this story touched you, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Sometimes the end is just the beginning of something beautiful. Thank you for listening to this story with me. It reminds us all that love, loss, and healing are part of life's journey, and sometimes hope comes when we least expect it. If this story moved you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support means the world. And don't forget to share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.